The conversation is on, everyone. Our attention right now is turned to the Ministry of Education. How well has President Bola Tinubu fared in the past year? The President did outline several key initiatives and policies to reform Nigeria's education sector, Femi.
Within 1 year in office, these policies and reforms have begun to materialize. Our correspondent Helen Osamide-Ekins looks at some of the achievements of this administration and its impact on the masses.
President Bola Tinubu, upon assumption of office, reiterated the commitment of his administration towards education for human capital development in the country. He gave approval for a comprehensive set of policies aimed at overhauling Nigeria's education sector. The initiative, which focused on 4 areas, namely data repository, out-of-school children, teacher training and development, and skills development and acquisition. The number of out-of-school children in the country is currently a subject of controversy. This administration, through the Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment Project, a World Bank-assisted project currently running in 18 states, enrolled over 3 million girls in secondary education.
Now the days when students will be struggling to sponsor themselves in their various educational endeavors is over, both at the tertiary and those who are seeking skills, who are seeking to be skilled, to be empowered, to move on with their lives. So it's a very great day for the country.
President Tinubu established the Nigerian Education Loan Fund to provide accessible loans for students. The aim is to alleviate financial barriers to higher education, making it more inclusive for all Nigerian students.
I determined to ensure education is given the proper attention necessary for the country, including skill development programs.
The student loan scheme will pay 100% of the fees for the loanees at the institution, the approved institution that we grant loans for. What do I mean by that? If the fees are 100,000 for the session, that's what we'll pay. We won't pay 99, we won't pay 98, we'll pay 100% of those fees.
During this 1 year, the Nigerian education sector saw notable increases in funding despite ongoing challenges. In the 2024 budget, Tinubu's administration allocated 2.18 trillion naira to the education sector, an increase from 1.79 trillion naira in 2023, which represents about 7.85% of the total national budget, an increase from the previous year. Also, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund saw a substantial allocation, rising by 118.75% from 320 billion naira to 700 billion naira. The Universal Basic Education Commission also received a boost with an allocation of 251.47 billion naira. The Academic Staff Union of Universities also saw the impact of this administration in this 1 year. President Tinubu approved the payment of 4 months out of the 8 months of withheld salaries of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. The lecturers were on strike for 8 months from February 14, 2022 to October 17, 2022, and the then government invoked a no-work, no-pay policy. Helen Osamide-Ekins, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, it does feel like TVC's version of the ministerial sector briefing.
Yes, indeed. And it gives the ministers a platform to let Nigerians know how well they have performed in carrying out the mandate given to them by President Bola Tinubu. And also, as we continue the assessment of President Bola Tinubu's 1 year in office.
Absolutely. Professor Tahir Mamman is the Honorable Minister of Education, is right here with us in the studio. Prof, thank you for joining us.
Welcome. My pleasure always. Thank you.
So what's your scorecard like? It's like a report sheet, right? I hope it's full of blue and not red.
Well, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the scorecard. but I hope they are all blue.
But it's still being marked, you say?
They're still being marked. But I've seen some in the social media, mixed green. but I've seen a lot of good ratings, actually.
Yeah. So what do you consider the highlight for you in the past 9 months? In the past 9 months of your ministerial duties?
Well, you know, Minister of Education is the mother hen for any country. And it's a very big ministry with lots of players in there, enlightened players. And it's a ministry that touches from local government right through the federal, from primary schools, secondary school, basic schools, secondary schools, and then all the tertiary institutions. So you can imagine what one has to grapple with as a minister. But by and large, what we did was to first of all get a trajectory, get a bearing, because you can easily get lost, you know, if you don't get a bearing for what you want to do. And that was what we did. We set out in the early days to develop a roadmap, and as you know, you will have the federal government's 23 deliverables for the ministry. So we create our own thematics. Then later, all those are aspirations and goals. Now the implementation is what we reduce to those 4 dots. This is what we have zeroed on. And we zeroed on them because they are the ones that capture sector-wide, nationally, all the policies that we are going to implement and which education needs. And what are the problems? The problems are essentially 2 or 3, to put in a very general way. One, it has been established that we have a learning crisis in the country, particularly at the basic education level. We have, from the researches that have been done, assessment which even in the Ministry of Education we did, we have just about 30% of Nigerian learners being able to read and write in English, and even less in mathematics, and be able to do simple arithmetical calculations. Not to talk about understanding what they wrote, comprehension. And you cannot have a country like that. Public schools, especially we're talking about public schools now, are within that bracket of learning curve. And then secondly, we have millions of these young men, young boys and girls out of school. How do they find themselves out of school? You see, anytime JAM work, they release their results. They give information on how many percentage have been able to gain admissions to tertiary institutions, which is universities, polytechnics, college of education. They don't exceed 25%. Now, so you flip the figure, we now have 75% to account for. These ones have now proceeded to hire for tertiary education. They are not in employment, they are not in any form of training. So they are just floating in our midst. That's where any little thing that happens around us, in the market, motor park, wherever you see, before you know it, you see sea of heads of young people around you. These are the people we are talking about.
So what have we done in the past 1 year to mock them back into the system?
This is the point. That is first, that's what out of school is meant for. As at April, we were able to get about 2 million plus of these young ones back into basic education and Arabic schools. And then about 195 of them into, or disabled ones were attended to. But the key problem is, how do you stop people falling into the category of out of school? This is the key thing. Because if you are mopping, and in any case, as you know, nobody knows actually the number. World Bank gives a different figure, UNICEF gives a different figure, government has different figure. The government is using the figure of 10.2. World Bank, UNESCO, UNICEF around 18 to 20 million. So we need to know exactly these people who are in school, from primary school right through tertiary. And that's what we are going to do through the data, and be able to track them year by year. We give them a number through which we can monitor their progress year by year. And know also the ratio of girls to boys in school, so that when you are intervening, you know, if we can say, okay, these are the number of girls in this states, in this region. Even state governors, when they want to do their own planning, they will have that information in their system.
It sounds like you're saying that we've been able to get 2 million back to school in the past 1 year.
That's right. That's right.
That also, out of these number of out-of-school children, you know, even data has shown that a large number of them are girls. And I remember about 2 weeks ago, you were at the launch of this alternative high school for girls. Now, tell us about the peculiarity of this project. I know that this is a project that's also close to the heart of the First Lady, Senator Olurebitu. But what's the peculiarity of these, and how will it deliberately target girls and ensure that they are brought back?
What makes girls more in number out there is, first of all, the demographics. But more importantly, there are less girls going to school, partly because of culture, partly because of economic circumstance of parents, you know, and they're partly location of schools. Because if schools are far away from where they are, for most of them, they find it a bit difficult to go. And then the environment of the schools. Girls need more hygiene in schools than boys. So these are all major deterring factors, and these are some of the things that we have been working on together with the development partners and other agencies, so that we can improve the situation. And then now another factor there is security too, problems of insecurity, because they are more vulnerable in that regard too. So these are all the concomitant elements which impact on girls going to school. Now, what is happening is, first, the ministry is focusing a lot to ensure that a suitable environment is created for them through doing more schools, providing wash facilities, and in all the schools, and then also bringing schools closer to them. In the last 1 year or so, we've done with our partners, you know, right across the country. We've done schools for vocational, about 44 for vocational schools. We've done smart schools for girls. This one is for technology in education. And then we've also done close to about 5,000 schools, you know, right across the country, both basic education and for senior secondary school, so that there are enough schools around for them. And then, as I said, the wash is extremely important for them. And then there's a program, quite a number of interventions actually are ongoing. There's a program which the Ministry of Education is running with one of our partners, you know, where we've established about 3.4 have been registered as beneficiaries. And then girls are half of that number, if not more. And then the enrollment has been shown to has really increased tremendously because of that intervention.
What about funding? Because this is also a problem where we know there's a benchmark set by UNESCO, and this administration indeed has also increased funding for the education sector, but it's still not enough. How are you dealing with the issue of funding?
It's certainly not enough, but what we are doing is to draw priorities. Is to draw priorities in the utilization of what we have. And as I said, there are a lot of development partners who are intervening in that regard. UBEC is there, has been a very major source of fund for basic education, you know, in that regard. And then the senior secondary school is a bit of problem there because it's neither here nor there. So it's relying on ministry's budget, for which we have made substantial, you know, funding arrangements for them. And so these are some of the ways that we've been trying to provide for the shortfall in funds.
Prof, let us move up to the tertiary institution so that we can save more time. Just yesterday, ASU threatened to go on strike, and they're saying this will happen if federal government doesn't pay salaries and also improve funding for universities. Femi talked about funding. We're still doing less than 10% of budgetary allocation. I remember the last time we spoke, you talked about granting universities autonomy to be able to explore new sources of funding and what have you. But how come 2024 we still have issues with the ASU? Is it that we are not doing anything differently from what has been done in the past?
Well, you've put your hand on the lever in terms of funding, because the Nigerian education system has actually grown by leaps and bounds within a very short period of time. And so because of it, funds of the government have been overstretched. And then you have government funding the tertiary education 100%. And they want autonomy, very legitimate. But that autonomy has to come with some level of being able to provide for themselves, for themselves in terms of funding. Government coming in through grants, through some other creative ways, but not to be solely responsible for the funding. Now, what we have done since we came on board is to restate. Mr. President has said he wants a stable calendar in education, particularly at the tertiary education level, where the problems of instability have been. Because this is the only way we can have really progress there and have international partnerships and that sort of thing. So we've been keeping that communication, that conversation with the unions, all of them. Of course, like any family, from time to time there will be quarrel or disagreement here and there, but we all share the same aspiration. We want our tertiary education system where there's sufficient money for them to do their research, teachers are well paid, there are facilities, sufficient and adequate facilities, classrooms, labs, well equipped. We want to see them. I have been in the university tertiary education sector for close to 40 years, so I know the problems, But as I said, there are a lot of competing demands. Education, health, infrastructure, and all that. Government has been very supportive by increasing the percentage. We also have these funding windows through TED Fund and other international collaborations. That has been very, very helpful. And also you remember when the president paid 4 months' salaries for ASU, even despite the court judgment. That upheld no work, no pay.
Yeah. Well, Honorable Minister, you will agree with me that even in the post-Boko Haram era, the education sector is still under attack because these institutions, be primary school, tertiary institutions, are now soft targets for criminals, for bandits, kidnappers, and what have you. What's happening to the Safe School initiative, and how well spread is it to ensure that wherever the schools are located, the students, pupils in these schools are safe, because this is also a major deterrent to accessing education?
Very true. I can't agree anymore with you. It's one of the major problems which is actually besetting our education system now, particularly in the rural areas where they are vulnerable to this kind of attacks. Now, the Safe Schools initiative had been strengthened, have been established now. With the headquarters here, and then all states are supposed to have branches, and then all schools also are supposed to have centers, local centers for it. And then all schools are now required to key into their portal, so that wherever there is any potential threat, there's information about potential threat, they can report immediately. That is why it is called Rapid Response Center, so that they can report immediately. We have done a lot of sensitization of schools, school leaderships, even the students, and the communities around schools, so that once this information is available about any chance of attack, they can just report very quickly.
Is it functional now, or is it still work in progress?
Oh yes, no, it's already solid on ground. Yeah, it's very functional.
So have we recorded maybe an incident where through this initiative an attack on facilities, education facilities, have been repelled?
Well, I can't tell exactly. Probably it's the commandant who can report on that, of that center. But if you remember of recent where such things happened within one or two places also, Kogi, we lost some students. But overall, they were all rescued.
All right.
Yeah.
Let us look at the issue of certificate racketeering. In January, a 12-member investigation panel was set up to look into that viral report done by one of our colleagues. We're now in May. Where is the report? What's happening? What did you find out? Because the last time we checked, you suspended the evaluation and accreditation process. Many Nigerian students are screaming for help as we speak.
Yes, the report has been submitted. The committee has submitted the report about 3 weeks ago. We are working on the report to take appropriate decisions. Those that affect staff of the ministry, we are going to wield big stick. And we have said from the report, they have identified some institutions, non-existent institutions in those countries, particularly Benin and Togo. And we are going to seek the authority of FEC to chase out, follow up on every person who has that fake qualification from those institutions. We expect the head of service and secretary of government to be able to do that, because there are quite a lot of them around.
Is there a time frame to this process? And are you considering lifting suspension anytime soon?
Yes, once we are done, those schools that are official, that have official recognition and are well accredited, obviously we will let the public know, and they will, so that they will be free to admit students. And it's not a crime, it's appropriate for our students to go there.
Will that happen this year?
Oh, earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, next month or two, we should be done with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 25 years of unbroken democracy in Nigeria, and quite a number of people are excited about it. We saw Mr. President at the National Assembly today saying he had to come in person to thank legislators and the work they have done. Do you think that do you consider it a milestone? And how much do you think we have gained in the past quarter of century? And how far away are we from dreamland, so to speak?
Well, I don't know if one could say we are 100 miles or 100 years from the dreamland. Democracy is a process, it's a work in progress. What we need to do is to learn from mistakes made during every cycle, for instance, during every election cycle. And believe you me, we've made progress. Some of the things that were happening in the past, they can no longer happen. Fast progress through the electoral process. Yes, there are still some challenges there, but the use of technology has done a lot. The litigations also have contributed a lot towards settling, some of the intra-party issues, because these are some of the major obstacles to our democratic process over the years. The courts have been able to help enormously on this. And this is one of the things I intend to do, to write a book on the role of the courts in our democratic setting. They've done so much.
How soon?
We need democracy. I'll start work on it honestly very soon. Very, very soon. Okay. Promise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, still talking about democracy, talking about, if you say it's a process, it's a journey, but are we taking the right steps? Because the government might say, yes, we're doing things right, but when you go outside to seek public opinion, it's different from what the government thinks. A lot of people feel that, well, democracy has come with its challenges. This administration has also come with some kind of challenges, hardship and all of that, but we hear that it's work in progress. When will this work be done?
Well, it has to be work in progress, because we can't put a timeline on it. But the most important element for us to focus on, as Democrats, is the substantive purposes of democracy. The process there, the election and that sort of thing, it has to be for a goal. And that goal is providing for the needs of the people of the country, infrastructure, healthcare, education, water system, you know, so these are the kind of things which people will see the value for democracy. And this is, I believe, these are definitely the things which our president is focused on, which is also an inspiration for some of us who are working with him.
The student loan portal is up and running now, and we're hearing from the agency in charge that they're having some challenges with universities upgrading their data. Are you concerned about that? And is that something you think will be fixed in a matter of time?
Well, I am really not surprised, having come from a university background. You know, until before this appointment, I was a vice chancellor, and I know the entire terrain.
Indeed.
We have tiers of IT compliance and administrative capacity in our universities. Some are very strong with IT and then organization, so their systems can throw up information and data very rapidly.
But some are still struggling.
A lot of them. I don't even say.
And the fingers are pointing at the federal, federal universities, because those are the ones involved now.
I don't know about that.
I am telling you facts and figures, Honorable Minister.
China as well, the federal university, because you're from that sector.
Yeah, well, yes, yeah, probably size. You know, when you've been on analog for so long, and there's so much data out there, you know, that are not captured.
But does it not also, you know, speak to the quality of education? Because if ivory towers, I mean, they are supposed to lead the pack in this regard.
True.
If we're moving into ICT, they shouldn't be trailing us.
Yeah, I agree. But as I said, it's the beginning. They started analog. Tons of papers need to be transited away from. And I tell you, that takes a lot of time. And so that's why they may be struggling with getting the data. So I'm not surprised. But most of the first generation, current generation of universities, if you go to them, they are almost paperless. Like where I left, it was almost paperless.
And this may also slow down the disbursement of these funds to those that really are in need of it, to slow down the whole process.
What I would do, as a minister now, I'll find out exactly, because this particular point, my attention has been drawn to it, and I'll need to know so that we can, get across to the institutions why this is a problem.
Because the process, the process is fully digital, and then
it is.
If there's something wrong with the data coming from the universities, it will definitely slow it down.
Yeah, it will impact, because unless the data is completed in respect of an applicant, he will not access money. And for a fault, for something which is not his fault, so it's not right. So that's why we will find. I will try to get the information from Nelfon, so that we can find out how
pick it up from them.
Yeah, exactly.
Honorable Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Mamman, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for joining us.
And we wish you all the best in the coming years.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy May 29.
Yes, happy anniversary to President Bola Tinubu's administration, and you're a part of that government.
Certainly.
Congratulations.
And moving on now, on 29th of May 2023, President Bola Tinubu promised Nigerians a renewed hope in the area of infrastructure development. Well, a year on, senior correspondent Sarah Yekweth x-rays development in the sector and how it has impacted national development.
One of the few policies President Bola Tinubu designed